Welcome back. A new MU Law School poll shows people are a little more accepting of the U.S. Supreme Court, the presidency, and Congress. The court concluded its summer session last month with some high-profile cases, most notably ruling against colleges using race as a factor for admittance and striking down President Biden's student loan forgiveness program. The MU Law School survey polling 1,005 adults nationwide July 7th through the 17th, and we are pleased to be joined, as always, by the poll's director, Dr. Charles Franklin. So what do you think accounts for that uptick in approval? It was 41% the last time you did this, up to 45%. We are putting the Roe v. Wade overturned decision further in the rearview mirror.
I think that's right. And this year's term involved a lot of cases that are legally important, but that didn't get nearly the attention that the Roe overturning did a year ago. We saw a couple of cases that most of the public, at least over 50%, had heard about. That's the student loan forgiveness and the race and admissions. But 3 or 4 other cases struggled to get even 20% who said they'd heard or read a lot about those decisions. The other side, though, is across 5 decisions we asked about, among those who had an opinion, had heard enough about it to have an opinion, all 5 of them had at least a slim majority favoring the court's decision. That's sharply in contrast to the Dobbs decision overturning Roe a year ago, where over 90% had heard about the decision, and it was 2-1 opposed to that decision.
If you go back and look at the approval, too, it's a 4-point uptick from the last time you did the poll. But if you go back to last summer, I think it's 7 or 8 points, is it not, for approval for the court?
That's right. This is the second highest approval we've seen in the last 18 months for the court. So it's not a big jump up, but it's a 4-point improvement after a period of lows. Now, it's still 45 approved, 55 disapproved, so the court's underwater. Compare that with July of 2021 when it was 60% approved. So the court's definitely been in some trouble with the public over this last year and a half or so. But a little bit of an uptick this time, and I think maybe most important for the court, they didn't render any decisions this term that a majority of the public was strongly opposed to, which we did see last year.
Okay, we've been talking approval, but one of the other things you ask about is confidence. I'm curious what you think the difference is between approval and confidence, and then what the numbers showed.
Yeah, our goal in this is to measure confidence in institutions, and we present it as, here are some institutions of American government. How much confidence do you have in them? Not surprisingly, approval and confidence tend to move up and down together. But the court looks pretty good on confidence compared to confidence in either the presidency or especially the Congress. Congress always suffers badly in this. And the presidency tends to be seen purely through partisan eyes. Republicans have confidence when there's a Republican president. Democrats have confidence when there's a Democratic president. And Congress has tended to be quite low no matter what. But I think the main point is we hear about the legitimacy of the court. If we saw confidence in the institution falling, that would be a further reason for concern.
All right, and there's been some talk about that from the court itself and some of the reports that have come out with some of the justices. But let's go back to the presidency and Congress. You mentioned historically, you know how it goes, but there was an uptick for both of them. Did they often move in the same direction at the same time?
I would say that's a hit or miss thing for whether they move in the same direction. I do think as we've gone through the summer, things have been somewhat more positive in public perceptions, particularly concern about the economy or worries about the economy have dissipated. Confidence in the economy has gone up and been going up for about 6 months now. So I think maybe all 3 institutions are gaining from that. And we did make it through the summer with a deal between Biden and the Republican House on the budget. And we haven't had any major catastrophes lately. So maybe all of those things are lifting everybody's boat a little bit.
All right. And finally, any indications in this poll that partisanship, you already mentioned, is pretty strong when you ask about presidency, et cetera. But are you seeing any softening around the edges of partisanship with any of the topics that you talked about?
Not a whole lot. I think that approval of the court, for example, we saw a 12-point increase in approval among Republicans, just a 2-point increase for independents, and a 2-point decline with Democrats. So that big bump up in approval with Republicans, I think, reflects a year in which they could be pretty satisfied with decisions. But it didn't really move independents or Democrats much one way or the other, just a couple of points. That raises the partisan divide because Republicans are now so much more positive, but they moved in a positive direction for them. It's not like Democrats moved equally far in a negative direction.
Dr. Franklin, thanks as always for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.